No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Happy day, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this very, very beautiful, nice temperate day here on Watchers Talk. My name is Omar, coming at you guys from West Coast, British Columbia, Canada, with my co-host, co-creator, my bestie, my friend, Kathy Mason from Mason Works. Here we are deep into our NDE series, which we're doing for IANS, International Association for Near-Death Studies. They have a mega conference coming up here pretty quick, and we decided that we were going to do the series this week so that we can raise our awareness and understand what is going on with NDEs. And a big shout out to Peter Panagore from yesterday. Oh my God, that was just an amazing download. And I have to tell you, I have never, ever in my life have heard an NDE experience so well detailed and so well explained that I could, really visualize it in my mind as he was speaking. Just epic. He totally is an absolute mystic. And thank you to Peter. And let's go really quickly do our rundown of what we've done this week, Kathy. So, then we'll catch up. So okay. We did right here. Here we go.
Yeah, we started with Tricia Barker, who's now Tricia Barker Barton. She just got married. And her explanation of her near-death experience where there were angels in the OR, it was amazing. And she's just a bright light. She's very articulate and very much a leader in the NDE field. She's had her own symposiums and really a leader as far as all of it goes. Then we got to talk to Dr. Pamela Gerali, who is in Colorado right now, and I just had breakfast with. And she explained her 15 past life experiences all within less than 2 hours.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that would crush most normal people. Instead, it lit her up, and now she's an amazing healer and teacher. It's an amazing embodiment of the consciousness. Then, as Omar had mentioned, Peter Panagore is a reverend, but he has a Sunday session online called No Church. And so he's a mystic, and he is just incredibly articulate in the way that he expresses his experience so others can get in touch with their own mystical self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. And here we've got Jose, and he's here today. Yay. And Jose is an artist, and his genius unfolded after his near-death experience. And so we hope, I don't want to murder what he's going to say, but I know that you're going to be amazed at what happens when you have a near-death experience and you follow your intuition. And then there's Brooke Grove, who is actually just she's almost a shaman in the way that she works. After her near-death experience, she actually works with trauma-informed after effects. A lot of people go to her for trauma work, and it's not just physical, it can be emotional too. So, and she's a bright light. And then here's my buddy Carolyn Chang, not last but not least, because she is and she lives an embodiment of oneness. And she lost her son years back, and she's been in actually documentaries about it. She's been in communication with her son, and she'll be able to tell us all about it. Mm-hmm. And she really is a loving light. She is just a beautiful being. And then on Saturday, we get to have a panel with all of the past participants. And who knows what Omar and I are going to come up with questions. But and so in the audience, please share your questions so that we can maybe use your questions on that panel on Saturday. But This has just been such a gift. Thank you, Omar, for doing this with me. Thank you for
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you, Kathy, for involving me in this. Because, as you know, I have quite the interest in this field. Because my I'm just trying to understand what consciousness is, right? And this really helps me to develop my ideas of what consciousness is. And so it's, to me, it's just a wealth of information. And not only that, but these guys are bringing like healing to the table. Like, for instance, we have Brooke coming tomorrow, and the way I understand it is that she's going to be talking about like PTSD, right? And I myself, to be honest, am suffering from PTSD because of my childhood, and nothing was really worked with, and it's just carried on. And I think I've just mostly buried it. But I'm doing shadow work and learning it, right? So I'm really looking forward to learning her techniques and see how she works. And of course, with Caroline, the Prime Reality and the copy of Prime Reality is something that is really in the forefront of my mind that I'd like to understand from her, because bringing visions or pictures and audio from the beyond really kind of falls into my idea of really what's going on here in this matrix or reality, or I don't know what to call it. I'm so confused now.
Well, I want to make sure that people know that, I mean, part of this wonderful exposure that we're doing this week with these incredible beings is to show everybody how you don't have to fear death, number one, but number two, you don't have to fear life, because our programming is so set on fearing life, on fearing what the society thinks or your family thinks or whatever. And it's time for us to rock out of it, break out of it, right?
Absolutely. We've lived in fear-based reality for a little too long, and that's been the case really since the Roman times. Fear, fear, fear. How can we control the populations? Best way to control the population is through fear. Create an enemy if there isn't one, and really that's the mentality humanity has been trapped under. And it's time to go over that, because we're creating this new earth and this new reality, and we're upgrading as a civilization and as a species. So listening to experiences and taking advice from NDE experiencers is vital, because they've had that connection to something that we are attempting to make a connection with. Now, you don't have to die to, have an NDE experience. You can have spiritual experiences. You can have Kundalini experiences. Back in the day, shamans, and they would take people and they would induce near-death experiences again and again and again, so that these people would go and bring back information, and they'd be activated, right? Each time you come back, you're activated for some reason. So, there's deep, deep, deep history that is in this. So I'm so looking forward to hearing Jose's side. And really, he's a neighbor of mine too, because he only lives like an hour and a half away from me. So I'm gonna definitely drive down there and have a in-person talk with him. But I've never have come across somebody with an NDE experience that's expressed it through art, right? So I'm really looking forward to this, because I like art. My house is just loaded with art. And so I'm really, really looking forward to this. So let me do the bio really quick, Kathy,
Okay.
and then we'll bring Jose on.
Wonderful.
So Jose Hernandez was an electrical engineer with no background in art. Jose had an NDE in 2000 after an allergic reaction to medication. After spending 6 weeks in the critical care unit and seeing psychiatrists for 3 years, he finally embraced his new path. Jose began creating art for meditation, and his art has exhibited across the U.S. and hangs in healthcare institutions and private and corporate collections worldwide. He is a member of the Association for Transformational Leaders. Jose co-founded Immersions and Immersive Arts to share his breakthrough mindfulness practice in art, in wellness, and corporate environments. He lives in British Columbia, Canada, with his wife Anastasia and daughter Gabrielle, speaking regularly on his NDE and on art for healing. Beautiful. And you guys are going to be hearing a lot more from Jose here on Watchers Talk pretty quick.
Hi, Jose.
Welcome, Jose. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Omar and Kathy. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on our show here to share your experience of your NDE, and especially through your art. And as I was saying to Kathy, I've never come across someone with an NDE experience that has expressed it through art. And I've done several series on NDE now and have conversed with a lot of NDE experience going back years, and so I'm really, really looking forward to hearing your journey first of all as to what happened with you and what you encountered, and what your activation was, how you've dealt with that, since this experience. But I really mostly, as I asked Peter Panagore yesterday, I'd like to hear a background on yourself as well, so that I can see who you were, and then your transformation after your NDE experience, so that we can connect dots and really fully integrate your whole experience into our own experience, and to understand it and raise our awareness as to what's going to happen when we get there. I understand it's tailor-made for everyone, right? But this will help lift the fear of life and death out of people. So thank you, Jose. I appreciate it, brother.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'll share a little bit of my background. I was born in South Bronx, and I grew up there. I grew up in a very harsh environment. It was a very difficult community to live in. In the time I grew up in the Bronx, it was being completely devastated. The buildings were just empty shells. People were being forced to move. They were landlords, slumlords, that were buying these buildings up and then kind of refinishing them, and then out of rental agreements that they had before. And so it was a very difficult place to grow up. I saw a lot of violence. I experienced a lot of chaos in my upbringing. In that mix was my father, who's half First Nation, had a very strong sense of what being a man was. So, of course, kind of like teaching of what a man is. So we're not emotional. We take care of our family. We provide. We don't show emotion. We don't cry. So it was an interesting mix. My mother was a Catholic, so that made it even more conflicting for me growing up in two beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
One that said go here and you find God in a church. One that said God is out the window. So it was an interesting place to grow up in. And what that did was it drove me to become a very materialistic being, because I thought that's what life was about, acquiring stuff. And the more stuff I acquired, the more I would be respected by others, the more I would be kind of like, it made me feel good. And I thought that's what life was about. And I lived that life till I was 46 years old, a very materialistic life. And if somebody got a car, I had to get a better car. If somebody had a house, I needed a bigger house. And it was a kind of like a senseless competition. And I don't really know what I was getting out of it as I reflect back. I really can't say. But I had an NDE in 2000, like Omar said. I'll share a little bit about that with you so you get a sense of where I'm coming from. I was running some electrical lines in South Florida, and I was up on a bucket. It was Wednesday night. What's interesting about that, of course, is that the next day was Thanksgiving Thursday, and we had a 4-day weekend coming up and Black Friday. So we wanted to finish quickly, and we were behind schedule. We decided to try to find a solution or a way to save some time. And what we did, of course, was decide that I'd step on a bucket, he'd maneuver it, and we'd avoid all that up and down. and make it save an hour. So we did that, of course, because we're really brilliant. So we did that. And he didn't electrocute me or anything exotic like that. What he did was he actually bumped into a tree, and I hit the side of the bucket, and I broke all the ribs on my right side. So that was the beginning of my journey. Went to the ER. They gave me some medication. I took it. A couple hours later, I was having some difficulty breathing. And I called them up and I said, hey, guys, you know what? You know, is this normal? You know, Jose, don't worry about it. You're all taped up. You got all your ribs are broken. You can't take a deep breath anyway, so it feels like you can't breathe. So I embraced that, being that I was very science-minded myself. And, I didn't pick my father's beliefs or my mother's. I decided to be neutral. I decided that science and numbers was where I would put my hat or hang my hat in terms of belief. So I didn't believe in a creator or God. So I embraced that. Okay, it's okay. It's a normal reaction to the pills. And I slowly start to deteriorate. It wasn't like I stopped breathing the same day. It took months, and New Year's Eve came. I couldn't breathe at all. I was sleeping, sitting down in the sofa. I couldn't sleep in the bed anymore. And on January 5th, I just said to my wife at the time that I can't breathe. Take me to the hospital. And she took me with my son. It was about 11 o'clock at night. We get to the hospital. I go into the ER. They decide they're going to admit me. So I told my wife not to worry, to go home. Everything was going to be okay, right? We've been through so many issues in life, and somehow or other, we always seem to get through them. So I was like, don't worry, we're going to be fine. And they went home about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And just after they left, the nurse came in and she said to me, you know, Jose, here's this little button. If you need it, if you feel really bad, just push the button and we'll come running in, okay? So I looked at her like, yeah, right. Like, I'm actually going to push this button. And anyway, she leaves the room. And my first thought was, man, I should push this button because I feel so bad. And I just couldn't hide how bad I felt anymore. And that was one of my teachings, never to show pain or fear or things like that. So I was just trying to hide everything. And there was a big clock right on above the doorway, the entrance. It felt like forever. And I waited about 45 minutes. And then I finally pushed that button. When I pushed the button, it took about a minute for the nurse to come into the room. But that minute felt like an eternity to me. It felt, I would describe it as probably the longest moment of my life. And she comes running in. She just looked at me. And she just hit the cold blue right by the door. I'm observing this, so I'm looking at her like in stunned disbelief, like, no, she just didn't hit that cold blue. And how bad could I possibly? The room is getting filled with people. And I'm going to share a little bit of how I felt. I was suffocating, so I was conscious. I was aware of everything now. And by the time the team was coming in, the crash team, I couldn't breathe, so I couldn't exhale or inhale. I couldn't do this. Oh. And I couldn't. And I'm laying there, and the first thing that I experienced, if you can believe this, was shame. And the reason I experienced shame was because they stripped me down, and I was trying to hang on to the sheet that I was covered with. And then they lift me up and they put this board underneath me, a wooden board. And then they start doing the CPR, inserting the IVs and things like that. And I'm kind of like still in disbelief, like, no, this isn't really happening. This can't be real. I'm going to be fine. Don't worry. And the next thing that I think about is my family and my kids. And I start thinking, what if this is real? I'm never going to see my children again. And I had this tremendous knot in my chest. So I can't breathe now. I get this emotional knot that is so powerful. And I just feel like I'm falling and falling and falling, free falling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when I'm going to hit the bottom, but it was the lowest I've ever been as a being, as a human being. Never felt that low before. And I realized that they would never be able to come in time to see me. And it broke my heart. It just broke my heart. And wondering how they would manage without you. How are they going to manage? So I get past that and I start thinking about God and about what if God is real? What if the creator, like my father told me, is everywhere, exists everywhere? What if that's all real? And I said to myself, well, God, if you're real, creator, please, if you get me out of this, I promise I will change. I'll be a different person. I'll be a better man. And I waited. And I waited about 20 seconds, but those 20 seconds felt like a really long time. I already couldn't breathe. What happened during those 20 seconds was that my heart became very erratic. And it was racing so fast, it felt like a horse galloping in my chest, and I was experiencing this tremendous sense of fear. I thought that when I died, in my mind, I visualized I'd be shut off like a light bulb and just disappear forever, be nothing, become nothing. And that was a very fearful thought. And during those 20 seconds when I'm waiting for God to respond, or creator, to get me out of this mess, I wanted so badly to hold somebody's hand. I wanted someone to hold my hand. I wanted to feel that warmth, that connection. And I couldn't speak. But that's not what stopped me from reaching out and holding a nurse's or a doctor's hand. What stopped me was thinking about my dad, who had died 5 years before. And I would say if I show fear, my father will turn in his grave. And so I stiffened and I said, nope, I'm not going to show any fear. I can't show fear. And I went through another emotional crisis, I'm going to call it, for a few seconds of, I really do need to hold somebody's hand. No, you can't. And then my heart became so irregular that it stopped. At which point, I knew I was in serious trouble. And what I experienced next was like anger. I became angry and I said, what was I thinking about, creator? Why was I thinking about God? I knew they weren't real anyway. What was I waiting for? And then I looked at the door that was right in front of me and it was so bright. And these people are trying to save my life. They're working so hard. And it's almost like they're not even in the room. I could hear them, I could see them, but they're really not there. And my heart stopped, and then I hear this thing, the alarm going beep, 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 then beep. And two things happened. I looked at the door and I saw a shadow. And I said to myself, you know what? There's no shame in dying. I'm not giving up and I'm not quitting. I just know I realized that there's nothing I can do to change this chain of events. There's nothing I could do. I can't stop it. So I wanted myself really to know that I wasn't giving up. I wasn't quitting. I couldn't quit. That's the way I grew up. And the minute I said that, it was followed by, it's okay to die. The minute I said it's okay to die, the shadow moves. And she comes in the room. And that sounds like rain splashing on a tin roof. Splash, splash, splash. And I'm looking at the wolf for a second. I can see fascinated that my senses are so acute at the same time that I'm terrified that I'm dying. So the shadow moves in and she reaches out, touches me. And the minute she touches me, I just feel this tremendous sense of relief and calm and peace. And fear evaporated. All I feel is safe, love, peace. And I got this crazy long hair, so I'm thinking, oh, my hair's blowing in the wind. And I feel myself being lifted. And then I'm watching what's going on. What happens is, number one, the first thing I realize is I looked at myself, and this was a life changer for me. One of them was, that's me, and I'm dead. But if that's me, then who am I? And that who am I has been everything that I do today. Practice, everything that we do, that in Immersion you talked about, is all based on that simple question, who am I? Because I know I'm not this. And I looked at my body and I heard a voice that said to me, you know, Jose, why don't you just visualize your body as if it was a car? And that car has like 5 million miles on it and you can't fix it anymore. So you got to say goodbye. So I looked at my body and I don't know if I'm going to say this because I thought, oh, wow, I just had to say goodbye to my life. Now I have to say goodbye to my body. A lot of letting go was happening. And Omar and Kathy, the most magical thing happened. Because I had always been so judgmental of who I had been, so never happy with how I looked. I was never good enough. I hated to look in the mirror, but I did. And every time I looked in the mirror, I wasn't looking for, wow, what's good about me? I was always looking about what's wrong with me. And that it with love and kindness. And I realized how beautiful and wonderful that body had been. And how perfect. For the body as if it was flawless. And instead of looking at it like how many things are wrong with it, I looked at it how many things were right with it and how beautiful it was. And I realized that was perfection. That body in a way sacrificed life in them to have this experience in them. And then when they can't anymore, they succumb. But they sacrifice all that for you. And I started to get these images and memories and of experiences I had in this body, but I didn't have any like experiences like, you know, we think are like classic moments in our life that are like those moments that are going to change our life. Those crossroads that, wow, this is a life change. These simple memories of holding my little brother's hand, of hearing a bird sing, taking a breath, smiling, someone hugging me, kissing someone on the cheek. And The lesson was very clear and simple. It was Jose, he's yours. And you didn't live life, you missed it. I had all those moments. How many breaths do we take in a minute? How many times do we hear birds sing? How many times do we see a tree? How many times do we see someone we love or someone we care about or just have a conversation with them? All these simple things that we do every day, they were never important to me. And the lesson was, man, you really miss life. Look at all these beautiful things that were happening 99% of your life. And all you were focused on was 1% where there was a lot of struggle, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. Morning, going to work, my whole day would be disrupted by that flat tire. I got to work 15 minutes late. This happened, that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was bad. And I couldn't find any good. And yet, those birds were still singing. I was still breathing. And that becomes center stage to me because I suffocate. And doing this, such an amazing thing. You don't realize it till you can't do it. So I said goodbye to my body. Beautiful entity moves with me. And I walk and I kind of fall into this black hole, kind of like that's what it looks like to me. And I feel like it's tearing. And I land and she says, no, we got to keep going. And I keep going. And the same thing happens again. And I land and she says to me, painful moments in your life, all those negative things that happen to you, being peeled away, they can't move forward with you. For you to come here, you have to be pure. You have to be spirit. And I embraced that very easily. And when I looked around, I was, imagine a basketball. I was in the center of this basketball. And this basketball, all around me was just this beautiful wall of color, 360, and speaking to me. And there were like a million voices talking to me at the same time. And I could hear them all like a chatter. And I couldn't hear any specific voice, but I felt the color coming to me, or I was moving toward. I felt was pure love, non-judgmental essence. And that color embraced me the way I was. Good enough. I'd always been good enough. And now here I'm realizing that. So I go into the colors and I have an experience of oneness. And that experience of oneness is very interesting because I just became the colors. I became blue, red, yellow, every color. And I felt what that, I was experiencing a download, if we want to call it that, so that we can make sense of it here. And that was how to paint. I never painted in my life. I couldn't even do stick figures. I was really bad at it. Given a blueprint of how to draw, how to paint. And it started with a black canvas. And explain to me why. I said, Jose, you start with a black canvas. That's the way this world that you know started. That's the way Creator God started your world. So in that blackness is everything that we need to make everything we see today and everything you need to do that, what you're going to do on this canvas. And finally moved through that wall of color. And I'm going to call it the other side. And what I saw was this beautiful, beautiful forest and mountains in the distance. And what an amazing vista. And two things happened. The first thing is I thought about my children. And I asked, and I heard a voice say, don't worry, you can see them from here. And that filled me with so much joy. And the next thing was, I'm flying. And the voice said, that's normal here. And so I started to move forward into this beautiful world. And to me, it's there's a contrast there because I grew up in New York City and all I saw was buildings and concrete jungle. Here I am. And it just wasn't the world I knew. And anyway, I started to approach a tree. And as I approached this tree, I became the tree. And I could feel this tree drawing from the ground nutrients and water and feeding itself. And I could feel its heartbeat. And I could feel its strength and energy. And I got a sense of wisdom. And the reason I got that sense of wisdom was because that tree had been there for so long and had seen so much. And I became a bird. I became the air, the clouds, the oceans, the water, everything that was around me. That's how I experienced oneness. And that sense of peace and calm was so pervasive and so overwhelming. I looked up at the mountaintops and I saw snow. I love snow since I was little. And I find myself moving in that direction. And I went way up high and I got to the mountaintop and I went over the mountains and I could see that beautiful snow. Then I looked to my right, and on my right, I saw the sun. And I don't realize it. And it was almost like I was looking at her through a telescope. And I could see her. The flares, solar flares coming out of there, all kinds of stuff. And I felt that warmth coming at me. And even there, I'm thinking like a scientist. And I said, ooh, that's what I'm getting. This lift is rising. I look to my left and I see a beach and cove, a U shape. And I noticed there's a man in the water and he's holding 6 children on his right hand and 1 child on his left. And they're like making a line, a chain. And I say, I want to go there. I want to see who this person is. So I moved down and I head out in that direction. And distance is very hard to judge there. About 10 or 15 feet away from him. And he turns around. And when he turns around, that man is my dad. He looked at me. And me and him were always fighting. We were always clashing. He was a drinker. He abused my mom, and I was always my mother when I was a kid. So we grew up that way. Then add that to the fact that we weren't allowed to hug, we weren't allowed to embrace. In fact, at First Nation, I wasn't even allowed to have long hair.
I hear you there.
I would be gay. I would be this. He had all these really wonderful words for me. And even if I was, I wouldn't have.
Jose.
But anyway, I realized in that moment that I had the opportunity to do what I couldn't do in life. And that was tell my dad that I loved him and I cared. And to exacerbate that problem.
Mm-hmm. Jose, your connection is really bad, brother.
Dying, I had to sign to disconnect him from my support. This guilt. I had this guilt forever for those 5 years. And I felt like I gave up for him. Now, you know how important giving up was to me. So I felt like I quit for him and I didn't give him a chance. And so anyway, we embraced. And I don't ever remember hugging my father in life. Here I am. And what happens? I become him. And I feel his life and I live his life in an instant and I know everything he went through. And more importantly, I realized how much he loved me. He had been proud of me. He never said it. But he had been. And there was a magic that had that moment was of forgiveness. And most people say, okay, you forgave him and he forgave you. Yes, that's true. But more importantly, I believe
Jose, your connection is like really bad.
Is it?
Yeah, you're freezing like every 20 seconds and it's just making it very, very difficult to
Sorry,
keep track
guys.
of. It's all good. It's I thought the problem might just fix itself as we move through.
I noticed you guys freezing, but I thought it was over there.
Yeah, I know.
You're telling a story, and we're waiting on
Let me see
every
if there's anything I could
word.
do. I got it in here.
Yeah, it's it makes it extremely difficult to hear what you're saying. And
So bad. Do Jose?
yeah, I see you're frozen again.
Do you want me to show his art? So at least.
Yeah, let's we'll do that. Let's see if he unfreezes. Or Jose, if you can hear us, maybe leave the studio and then come back in. Right, that may resolve the issue, but this has been ongoing now for a while. I was hoping that the problem would just correct itself, but it just seems that the lag has gotten worse and worse and worse as we've moved forward. So yeah, it looks like Jose is like totally frozen now. So I'll just take him off the screen for the time being. Jose, if you can hear me, just leave the studio and come back in, brother. There we go.
Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah, so let's bring Jose's artwork on, Kathy, and we'll rip through those, and then maybe we can do like another session with Jose, maybe like later in the evening. I'm thinking that when the internet connection for him might be good.
Oh, okay.
Right, because it's during the daytime. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where he is in Summerland, so the connection. Right. Let's see if that got better.
Jose, can you speak?
I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. There we go. It seems a little better now.
All right.
That buzz is gone too, because I was hearing a buzz.
I didn't.
Right. I thought I was hearing it in my microphone or in my headset, so I took my headsets off and I went on YouTube on my phone to listen, and then I could hear the buzz going in there as well. And that's when I messaged you to see if you can hear that. But it seems like whatever you did, it seems like you corrected it.
Yeah, well, I have a boost here, so hopefully, I thought I was on the boost, but because usually when I'm in the living room like this, I never have any problems. Usually in the bedroom, so that's why I'm not there. I came here. So should we continue or?
Yeah, let's continue, because it looks like it just got way better. So we solved the problem. Okay, so where were we? We were at the point where you had come across your father, you embraced him, you became him, and then you felt his emotions, and that's kind of where we stopped.
Well, also the other part that I hope everyone gets is Jose. He's the only person I've heard say he went into colors, and he experienced colors, because most people experience the light and family, and they might experience other worlds, because they actually are in another dimension. But Jose, he said, I became blue. I became, right, Jose?
Right.
I mean, it was really choppy when you said it before, but that's like, oh my God, the sense of it, the physical experience of being a color is like amazing.
Yeah, I was listening to that when he was saying, and I was like, wow, imagine what it feels like to be blue or to be red, or I just can't even fathom the idea in my mind on what it would be like to feel that. So yeah, let's pick that up, Jose, and we'll carry on, because it's much better now. And
yes, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. You were telling such a beautiful story.
Yeah,
we're having we really had a hard time. We're texting each other like, should we stop him? What do we do? Because we want to hear the story, but we couldn't hear.
Yeah, I don't want to glasses on, so I wasn't kind of capturing it. I know you guys came off screen, and I said, well, maybe it's better. But anyway,
that's what we thought too. But
yeah, that's what we thought as well. Hoping that would correct it, but I guess it didn't. But we fixed it, so it's all good. Let's pick it up, Jose. So I'll put you on full screen again, and we'll be here in the background.
Thank you, Jose. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries.
It'll be better.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're better. So anyway, just to go back where I left off, I had an opportunity to experience something I never experienced in life, and that was self-forgiveness. It wasn't about me forgiving my dad forgiving me. It was really about me forgiving me. And that created such a sense of freedom for me. And then, of course, that moment came when my dad said to me, "You got to go back." And I'm looking at my father like, "You're crazy. I'm not going back. And I don't want to." And he looked at me and said, "No, you don't get it. You got to go back." What I felt was a tug, kind of like in my back, but I felt it in my chest, and it pulled me back. And I went back in body for a split second. And I opened my eyes, and I saw the doctor that was doing CPR just lean back for a second. And then I was back with my dad, and we went through that whole scenario. If you got to go, you got to stay, you got to go. No, I don't want to. And then my dad looked at me and said, "Jose, you know what? I'm going to make a deal with you." And my father was always making deals. So I said, "Okay, what's the deal?" I looked at my father, and he said, "I promise that when your time comes, I will come and get you." And I just looked at my father, and I said, "Wow, that is... what a deal. Could it get any better? To know that he would come for me when that moment came." And it gave me comfort. And I said to him, "Okay, that's a great deal. I embrace it. I accept it." And instantly I was back in body. And the instant I got back in body, two things happened, right? First thing was, what kind of a person had I been in life that I got kicked out of heaven? And the second part was very simple. You were back in body, and I felt this separation from everything. I felt separate from everything again, and my experience on the other side was so different. And I felt that normal experience of being embodied, being detached from everything around us. It took 3 months. I was in hospital for 3 months, 6 weeks in the critical care. Finally got out. One day when I could finally speak, I said to my cardiologist, "You know what, I think I went somewhere." And he told me 20 reasons why I didn't. Your heart stops, but your brain is still alive for 2 minutes. You have DMT. We have all these drugs we're giving you to try to keep you alive. So everything was, in his words, without directly saying it, a hallucination. I struggled with that for months. It took me about 6 months so I could start walking again. And when I finally did, I decided to go see someone because I was thinking that maybe my mind broke. And after 3 years, I was able to sit with a mental health professional, and she did something magical. The first 3 years were very difficult. I wouldn't talk. I couldn't speak. I couldn't say why I was there. But she decided she was going to sit right next to me. She took my hand. And the minute she took my hand, I was galvanized, and I was in that bed dying again. And holding her hand was so healing. It was what I wanted to do so badly. And whilst in that moment I thought I was being brave by saying, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to show fear," I realized how I was actually expressing fear. So I finally had the opportunity to say why I had been going to mental health professionals for 3 years. So that's kind of like the experience. Where I came to be was I started to paint after that experience with her, where I was able to tell my story and then finally embrace the near-death experience. And I put to test what I had been told to do while I was dead, how to paint. And I started painting, and this image behind me is one of them. And I paint with a very different awareness, I think, than a lot of painters. I paint with a sense and an awareness that I know that color is alive and it's talking to me. And it's also guiding me. Where to put the stroke, where to put the brush, where to put the pencil, where to drop the ink. And I feel that painting behind me is as alive as I am. And because it has that essence of life, this ability to communicate with us, it is a lot more than just something on a wall. And I could explain that communication to people very easily. So if I'm looking at 3 paintings and I'm going to choose one and I'm going to pick the one that resonates with me the most, is that I like this one or I like that one, or is that a communication that's happening? Is that painting saying to you, I am you, I can speak to you, I can communicate with you, and you resonate with me because of that? And maybe that's why I make that choice. Maybe that's why I pick this one. Think of wall colors. Why do we pick the colors we do? The way we dress, why do we pick those colors? Why do we have a favorite color? And that experience just answers that question so simply to me, because the color speaking, it's telling me, talks to me. And I don't have the gear here to hear it like I did when I was dead. I don't have the capacity here, physicality, but spiritually, maybe even emotionally, we hear that. And so I started an entire practice that revolves around that color. And we work a lot with rehab centers. We work a lot. We just started a program with some schools in inner city Chicago, completely color-based, and based on the fact of that communication that's happening, that exchange of color. And it's a fun program. We get to draw, we get to interpret art, but more importantly, it gets to what people call their core issues or their core wounds, and they bubble up, and now someone becomes aware of what's really hurting you, or bothering you, what's holding you back, and now you could actually tackle that and do something about it in a good way, if we say my culture. But that's kind of like my experience. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, Jose, I'd love to show your slides if you want. Right now, you could explain each one so people could get a feeling, that they could get an experience of your perspective of color and how it communicates and how it's alive.
Right.
Would that be good if
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Omar did it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Omar. So what you're seeing is one painting painted over another, painted over another, painted over another, painted over another. So it's layers. I paint in layers. So there's a bunch of paintings compressed equal one painting. The reason I do that is because it represents life. That's the way we are. We're not the same person that we are when we're 5 or 10 or 15 or 18 or 21 or 30. We keep changing. And we changed a lot based on the experiences that we have in life, and they begin to change us. So if we get wounded, we put up a wall. If something makes us happy, we keep chasing that and trying to recreate that. And this kind of speaks to that. So the paintings are engineered to kind of capture that part of our humanity. And when we look in the painting, because it starts with that black, it's really engineered to take us back to our beginning. And when we go back to the beginning, what are we experiencing? We're experiencing our entire ancestral tree. Everyone that's connected to me in any way. Beautiful. And ultimately, as I get further and further back into that painting and we get into the beginning, it speaks to how we're all one, how we're one person. So I often paint on metal or glass or on reflective surfaces so that you can see yourself in it. The reason I want you to see yourself in it is because you're a part of that painting. Perfect. You're in there. We're all in there. And it's not only my art, I believe it's all art, but mine is specifically engineered to do that. And if I light this art in a specific way, the colors move like I saw them, so they're alive. I think there's a lot of magic in them. This one speaks to a connectivity, that thing, that string that speaks about what connects me to the Creator, what connects me to God. So in other words, when I died, I always wonder, how did I know where to go? And I believe that there is this essence that's attached to us that knows where to go, it knows where to take us. and that represents that in this image. So that's kind of like what that's about. And so it's really about coming home.
It's beautiful. It's very deep. Ready for
I see
that?
I see like a face in there, right? Like right above the yellow, and right in the middle.
Yeah.
Up the middle, there's like that blue area with the two dark areas on either side,
Oh,
Yeah.
right? That kind of reminds me of like somebody face, somebody looking back at me. Like there's two eyes with a nose, right, that spreads into the yellow with a mouth underneath, where the red is, so like a line of red under the yellow and green, and kind of opens up. And that's what I'm feeling from it. The moment I saw it, that was the first thing that stuck out at me, and it's gotten more clearer too the more I look at it. So
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah.
It's incredible, Omar, because that's what we do in the practice. We ask you what you see, and as it's moving, you're going to see different things, and people
Hmm.
see different things. So this painting behind me, a lot of people see a lotus, a lot of people see a bat, a lot of people see so many things in there. And sometimes I'm wondering where they see it, because I'm looking and I'm like, gosh. And that's all that matters, is that they're able to see. And I believe you see what's relevant to you.
Yeah.
that makes sense. That's the truth of everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. This is amazing.
Wow.
This is about crossroads, right? And it's that moment where I had that, and this is what I saw there. These are images of what I saw there. And this speaks to me about crossroads. And we think about crossroads, like I said, in my experience, as something very specific. That I got married, that I graduated. It has to be like a big event. And what this speaks to is that every second we're at a crossroad.
Mm-hmm.
Every second of my life, I'm at a crossroad. And I'm going to make a choice. And I could choose, maybe in this case, I'm going to go right or left. I'm going to take the bus, or I'm going to drive. Whatever that choice is, you're making it. And we have, because of that gift that Creator gave us, or God, that ability, every second in front of us is a choice, is an opportunity, is a crossroad. And that's what this speaks to. So everything is interwoven, and the crossroads are not distinct roads the way we think. They're all interwoven. And at the end of the day, it's like all roads lead to Rome. It's one path. There's only one path. And we could twist it any way we like, but ultimately, we're going to wind up on that one path. And that's our path. And everybody has a path. And it also speaks to me, it tells me that no matter how rough things are, how difficult things can be sometimes, that other second in front of me could change that. The second after that could change it. One of them can. So it's about giving yourself an opportunity to get there. And this is one of my favorite paintings because of that. I think it just speaks to the wonder of life. And that wonder is not behind me. It's in front of me. It's always in front of me. And and I think the colors are quite rich, and there's a sense of balance. And when you see this moving, it's very powerful.
Wow.
How profound is that, right? Because as I was looking at that, number of things were going through my mind, Jose. And while you were explaining it as well, I had just all these thoughts running through my mind. I'll share some of those with you. But one of them, when I saw this, I saw the flower of life. And then the second thing I saw, what really ran through my mind, is that I've been doing timeline series for the last couple of months. And, there's a thought that regardless of what happens on how events create and change timelines, there's going to come a time in the near future when all those timelines will merge into a single timeline. And then I was thinking about the Hopi. I've been doing a series for the last 3 years, and working with Aborigines in Australia. And they also have this prophecy to where we'll come to a crossroads. and humanity will be given a choice. And if we make the right choice, we'll have a life of love and abundance and empathy and acceptance. And if we make the wrong choice, then it'll be, doom and gloom. I really don't want to give it any energy, but those are the things that were running through my mind when I saw this, and as you were explaining, and I was like, wow, how profound for the times that we're in, because we really are being given a choice, right? Wake up or stay asleep, be empathetic or not, right? Those are our choices and personal choices that each one of us are being given. So what a profound painting. I love this one. And like the colors, they're just so beautiful. I love that pink and the right, and wow, beautiful.
Yeah. And to me, it's just an entity that's alive. It has its own spirit. It has its own. So, and it has what I would call eternal wisdom, because if I go into that and I go into the layers and I move through it, it's going to tell me not only who I am, because my ancestors dictate a lot of who I am today, right? From a genetic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't speak to who I am from my spiritual leg, because I'm learning here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming. But once we get back far enough in there, you are in that space where you're one. So if you look at from my perspective, there's a corner there that has like a little gray and black right above the yellow. And that's the original layer. That's the first layer.
Mm.
So that's when I paint that canvas completely black.
Yeah.
And that represents total potential. It speaks to every possibility. And that's the way this universe is built. So when I was told that, in my experience, it said, when you look in the sky at night and you look in the blackness, it's not empty, it's full.
Oh boy, that's just sick, Jose, because we were talking to Peter Panagore yesterday, and he referred to it as the nothingness of the zero state from which everything is manifested. Everything comes from nothing, and painting the entire canvas black and expressing it like that is sick, bro. I'm loving you.
Thank you. And that's what it's about, because the idea is for me to find myself in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could find myself, then I could find everything that's relevant to me. My mother, my father, my grandmother, my grandfather. And in my culture, we speak about, and you spoke about the Hopi. So we speak about the 7 grandmothers, which is like our entire lineage, right? But this goes back to that point where we were that singularity. We were that one point. We were all in that one space, if we could call it that. And that's the birth, right? That's the, and in that blackness, I find such beauty, because it speaks to me about potential. It tells me one day a star could be there. One day a galaxy could be there. One day. And right now it looks like a void, but that's where everything exists.
Maybe it's all there and we just don't have the awareness to see it. Exactly. And then once we have that awareness, all of a sudden the lights come on, and literally, and we can see the stars and the galaxies and all the potential and the infinite possibility that we are, and what is possible.
Exactly. Because when we realized we were a part of all these things, right?
I like this one, the pregnant void.
Right. Part of it. And now when we look at the universe and they speak about the beginning and the Big Bang, there's that philosophy, or the new thought is, what was before?
That's right. I've been asking that question forever. Where did the Big Bang happen?
Exactly.
Had to have happened somewhere.
And what was before that? So now they're beginning
right.
to see that there are nuances in the science that say there had to be something right before this, right? So, and that I think that question may never have an answer that we might understand, because there'll always be something that came before.
Our limited potential of understanding in this body avatar, right? I don't think we'll ever be able to comprehend the answer. I think our brains would fry if we actually got the real understanding of what was.
But I think if we begin to look at this world that we're in and understand the beauty. So look at Mother Earth as a being.
Mm-hmm.
Look at a tree as a being. Look at a cloud as something just more than water. And water as a being. And how interconnected all these things are to us. Because without the clouds and the water, we can't survive. Without the tree and oxygen, we can't survive. Without any of these things, we can't be here.
Mm-hmm. Without the bacteria in the ocean that release the oxygen in the first place, we wouldn't be here.
And think about this. If we have no worms, in 10 years, there will be no life on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mind-boggling thought to me of something we never think about.
That's right.
On the ground, and maybe when we look at them, we're like, oh, God, it's a worm.
Yeah.
But how relevant and important they are to the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I think maybe Peter was talking about yesterday, and I'm talking about today. It's the beginning. That painting began somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, it's very simple because it began in the void. And the way I look at it, and this might be, I hope you could understand this. So when I put a blue on a brush and I touch the canvas, sometimes I feel like the canvas is releasing that color instead of me putting it on.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from somewhere deep. It's coming
Mm-hmm.
from its emptiness, from its nothingness. And it says to me, see, I'm full. So I think it's a perspective that if we just change our perspective just a little bit, it doesn't have to be complex, it doesn't have to be complicated, just really simple. And say, ooh, I just took a deep breath. How good did that feel? I feel the warm sun, it feels nice. I'm thirsty, I drank some water. Wow, that felt so good. And just meet that moment, in the moment. And you see how many wonderful experiences we have in life.
Mm-hmm. Be magnetized to the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I got a question here for you, Jose. It is from Mary Carol Arif. I hope I pronounced that right, Mary. Mary says, what medium do you use for the artwork? Oil paints or acrylic or something else?
Yeah. So, Mary, I use multiple mediums. Acrylic, I don't use oils when I use paint. I use watercolor. I take photos. I integrate them into it. So if you imagine in this painting, right, I include the 4 elements, and I include them by, I take a photo of a sacred fire when I do quilston, which is, you would call that a sweat.
Mm-hmm.
So I take a photo of the sacred fire. I take a photo of Mother Earth. I take a photo of the sky, water, and things like that. And I integrate those 4 elements into this painting as a photo. And then I integrate an image of a journey. So I take a lot of pictures like we're on a road trip of the roadways are empty in front of me, and a journey, a path. And it's integrated into here. And even a picture of someone I love is in this image of a person. And the reason I do that is I was told to do that, but it binds it to this place. So if you understand what I mean by that,
Mm-hmm.
is that color to me is of creation, of God, right? And for me to be able to interconnect it here with myself physically, it needs elements of this world. So the 4 elements, it would be air, water, fire, and earth, right? And then, of course, the journey and life. So I integrate them in there. So that's why this layers, some of my paintings might have 200 layers.
Wow.
And the reason it is because that's how we live life.
Mm-hmm.
I can be so many different people in life. I've been so many different people. And this speaks to that. And as I peel these layers back and we light this, and some of the layers disappear, and the ones behind it pop up, we begin to realize that we're shedding. So I've had a ton of experience in life, and maybe I had a bad experience in a relationship, and now I'm afraid to love again. I'm afraid to give the love that I own, that's inside me, to give it to someone, to share it. And we put that barrier up. Well, this, in my mind, helps us to take that barrier down and be able to, yeah, I might get hurt again, but I got to give this love. You know, and I look at it very simply. When I'm born, when I'm made, when Creator made me, it filled my tank with love. And my task as a human being in this world, is to leave that tank empty when I go home. I want to leave all that love that I own here. In so many ways we could share our love. Relationships with the people, our family, where we live, our pets. So many ways, our work even. So many ways we have the capacity to share our love, and so many of us go home with a half a tank, or sometimes even a full tank almost, because we become so fearful. And you, Omar and Kathy, you were talking about that in the beginning, how fear is such a driver, you know. And you know, we can't be afraid to live. And if I gotta live, I gotta be able to love. I want to love. I want to give my love. I want to share my love. I want. That feeling has no words. It's almost like dying when you give your love to something, to someone, to anything. It's so spiritual, that essence. I mean, we can't see love. We don't. It's not a thing that you see. It's just something that you feel, and how we express that is really important. So be loving.
Absolutely, my brother. So that's my closing message every single day. Love yourselves and be in love with everyone and everything, because love is the only answer, and everything else is just an illusion.
Right. This painting, if you want me to continue.
Yeah, please.
This picture started with a photo. And I think it was Mary that asked the question of how I start. So it starts with a black canvas, and I took a photo of my grandson's eye. This is called the Earth Eye. And it started with his eye. And this is about me seeing myself, how the world sees me in my mind, how the world really sees me, and most importantly, how Creator or God sees us. And we're always in that bright light because that's what we own. We own a physical body only for a small time. That light is eternal. And that's what this speaks to. So this is called Earth Eye 5. And, you know, it speaks to sometimes how hard we look at ourselves. Oh, I'm overweight. Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that. I'm too short. I'm this. And it speaks to looking at ourselves with a sense of what I am is really endless love. That's what I am. I'm nothing more. You know, and one day I'm going to shed this body. And I'm going to be in a place where the only thing I experience is pure love. And what it tells me is to look at this experience, this physical experience, as something that is so insanely beautiful. It's filled with opportunity for us to do things that I don't know if I could do on the other side. If that makes any sense. So I couldn't really touch the way I could touch here, because everything I touched, I became.
I understand that very well, what you just said, and my life's philosophy is based on that. to where, I have this thought in my mind that I've chosen to be here as I am, with all the experiences that I'm going to have, that this is a vacation from my natural self. In my natural state, I am energy, I'm color, I am everything but physical, right? So when I manifest into this physical being, into this physical body, on this physical conscious world, I am here on a vacation so that I can feel the wind blow
Mhm.
through my hair, so that I can smell the flowers, and so that I can taste the food, because I have the memory of that in my natural state. But to experience it once again is exhilarating. And, so this is a vacation, right? We have an itinerary to follow, and that's what we do. So what you just said, really resonated with me, and I truly believe that this is a vacation. Imagine being in your natural state of,
Mhm.
of energy and color and whatever else that there is, except your physical body, and you remember, what a sandwich tastes like,
Mhm.
and but that's it, right? Wouldn't you love to taste that sandwich again?
Exactly.
Right, and that's why we're here, is so that we can taste that sandwich, and we can go on that roller coaster ride, so we can have the ups and downs in life, because it's all about that experience. It's all about feeling that awareness and that energy of that moment, right?
For
So
real. For
yeah,
real.
so
You
cool,
know,
Jose.
and one more thing is, if that other side is my eternal life, then damn, this little 2 seconds in it is so special.
Yeah, this is like a breath, like
Yeah.
really just a.
And one more thing I want to say about color, because you reminded me, and I want to thank you for that, is that when you go in a sweat, everything is dark. You can't see your hand in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm,
And there could be 20 people in there, but one thing you're going to realize is that we're all the same.
mm-hmm,
Doesn't matter how big you are, anything. When we're in there, we're only spirit. And that speaks to that essence we were just talking about. So that black void that Peter was talking about and I was talking about is a state that we are actually in, even in our
mm-hmm,
physicality. So if we go into a room where there's no light and it's black, we become the blackness. So in that space that we can't see anything, that looks empty, we experience how full it is because we're aware of what's in there.
mm-hmm.
So that's a good way to visualize that concept.
I like that. I like that, Jose. That's profound. Actually, I never really thought about it from that perspective. I've been trying to explain it all this time, but now that you mention it like that, wow, I'm gonna have to steal that from you, Jose.
You can borrow it.
Thank you, because that's very good. I like that. That's like uh, like Peter was saying yesterday, is that we speak through analogies, and that's a profound analogy in my mind. So yeah, cool. Thanks for that download,
It's easy
brother.
to visualize that, right? So if
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then everything's black, I know there's 20 people in here with me. I know this place is full, but it looks empty. That's the
Mm-hmm.
void. That's the creative force to me. But in there is the capacity to make so many things.
Mm-hmm. It's
And I think
infinite
that's a
possibilities.
beautiful way to think about that.
Infinite possibilities. I think you and I are gonna get on just fine.
For real. Yeah.
Let's jump to the next image, Kathy.
Okay.
Oh,
This one really
wow.
has a rich flavor, and it's really about our grandmothers and that dance of life, that force, right? Where we have a lighter aspect of who we are and a darker aspect of who we are, right? So in the blues and the dark, The yellows is more white, but there's always an essence of black in each. And that speaks to where we come from, our origin. My origin isn't my mother. So when we go into a sweat, the idea is that we're going into the womb. We're going back. That's why it's sweaty, it's hot, it's damp and moist. It's because we're going back to our beginning. That's what a sweat is all about. And this is about going back to the beginning. And in that beginning, there was a dance. And it was male and female. It was creator, whatever, however you want to look at that. But this is about that dance. And when you light this up, the movement is it's almost like water rippling. And that's what this one speaks to. It's about that connection and how me, Jose, is both male and female. How Kathy is both male and female. Because I am part of my mother and part of my father and part of my grandmother and part of my grandfather through eternity. And yes, I'm male, but I have aspects of femininity in me. And it speaks to not losing touch with that.
Damn, Jose, you just keep pulling out these out of your hat, bro. You just we are resonating so well here because I mention that all the time as well, that we are both aspects. We are feminine and masculine. Say I'm having this masculine experience, my higher self or my guide or my whoever's on this journey with me is my feminine aspect is looking after me. And then next time when I incarnate as a masculine or a feminine energy, then the masculine of me will be the guide and the spirit, and that guides and travels with me through this journey. And and we have an aspect of that within us, right? That we are both cool, Jose. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I'm loving you.
This looks like a yin yang that's evolved.
First thing I saw, yeah, sorry, Kathy.
That's all right. That's all right. Go ahead.
First thing I saw was an owl, right?
Oh.
An owl is sacred, and I just automatically, that was the first thing. As soon as you popped it up on the screen, probably heard me say, "Oh wow!" And that to me, the first expression was an owl looking at me, and I love this one. It's beautiful, and
I could see it.
Yeah, and an owl is so sacred. Especially for me, I love owls and I love birds in general, but owls are, like my favorite of all birds. It's unfair to the rest of them, but owls are, just amazing little creatures. And that was the first thing that popped out at me and just resonated with that immediately. If there was any one of them that I would have to choose so far, all of them, but this one here is like really standing out to me. It's almost like it's speaking to me.
Jose, what is the name of this one?
I think this is earth, wind,
Okay.
fire, and water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of people.
It's the four elements, right? And it's interesting that he says an owl, because out here where I am, there's so many birds, in particular, like eagles and owls and hawks and things like that. And I never seen so many bald eagles. I think I've seen more bald eagles in a week here than I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah, we have thousands of them up here, tens of thousands of them. Like you can go for a walk right now outside, and within 5-10 minutes, you'll see a few of them just around, one sitting in a tree or fishing. Or there's a lot of them around here. The beautiful birds.
But this also tells you it's okay to be in touch with your feminine side if you're a male. It's okay to be in touch with your masculine side if you're a female. It's who we are. I why would I deny my mother, my grandmother, all my grandmothers, right? I used to say, oh, I'm a guy, I gotta be tough, I gotta be like this. And what I realized that I was being emptied out, hollowed out. I was becoming less and less emotional, less connected to being able to relate to other people, because I was always kind of like pushing back. And when I had my near-death experience, I mean, the first thing that it taught me was that crying is okay.
Oh, beautiful.
My father taught me never cry in front of anybody. You never let anybody see you cry. And here I am, like, I cry all the time now, and I find it so relieving.
Yep.
It's so freeing in so many ways. And I, you know, so I think the NDE and the color for me in particular, because I believe the color healed me. So when I was dead, every time they hit a cold blue and I was in that room and I couldn't move, I'd go right back to that bowl. And that's where I found my shelter. And that's why, to me, color is, you know, I look at color in two ways, right? All these colors that I see here are like a feminine aspect. The white light is the male aspect.
Oh, okay.
And when you put that through a prism, it just becomes so many beautiful things. It's like a mother.
Yeah.
It's like Mother Earth. It's able to now become so many things. And I look at the colors as a feminine part, and the white and the black more as the masculine aspects of it. And of course, that's just me.
It's beautiful. You know, the all of these just feel like a warm hug. They just feel so nurturing, and so much love is coming out of each one of them. There's nothing it's not like a disruptor. It's a smoothing out. It's beautiful.
It's peaceful.
But,
Yeah.
But again, you know, people are talking about this is the time for the divine feminine to come out, and you know, the balance of all the divine masculine, divine feminine. Well, we are all of it. We are both of it, and it's but we don't want to be role plays. We don't want to be I call it costumes, where you put on your costume and you play this being in the game versus the other. I mean, we want to integrate. And that's what a lot of the peacefulness of this feels like integration to me, Jose.
Right. And a lot of mental health facilities use it to calm people.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, to me, it's really about, as a man or a woman, how are we able to express what we feel?
Yeah.
And there's multiple ways to do that. It could be loving, even if I feel bad, or it could be in a hateful, angry kind of way. And that's what that crossroads speaks to. Now we were always at that moment. Now I can make a choice. I feel really bad, but I can still be kind. Or I feel really bad, or I just want to express that I feel really bad and I want to do it in a bad way. Yeah. And when I look at some of these paintings, they just remind me of that capacity, of that choice that we have to make. And, you know, we're all guilty of making choices and overreacting or judging and
Yep.
You know, and so it's part of being human, but it's kind of keeping it in a place where you can contain it. When I was growing up, I couldn't contain it. There was a lot of anger, and it's expressed in the way you live, the way you are. When I had my near-death experience, it mellowed me out, and it made me very calm. I mean, you still have interactions sometimes where you have to be kind of assertive, but you approach it from a little different perspective.
Right. It's a dance, and you can dance aggressively, or you can also just observe. I mean, that's the other part, is that when you're, at least in my spiritually transformative experience, I assume you have the same kind of feeling with the near-death experience. You become the observer, And you can actually go to that place at any time still and observe. So it's like you're not swimming in it, you're out of it looking at it. Do you agree?
Yes, we're always the observer. We're always the observer. And it's kind of like when I did we did a program in a school in Chicago, and the idea was to let them know that take that second, get in your body, feel this moment before we have a knee-jerk reaction. Because if I look at it, if I become the third person and I observe it, I may react to it differently than if I don't do that. So taking that moment to become aware of who we really are, because I am not here, I am here.
That's right. Yep.
So I am always that observer. Now, what I do here and the choices that this brain, which is a physical component, does or chooses to do, sometimes it's different from what I really am.
Well, and Peter called that mind, but mind is connected to heart. And that's what, when people meet Jose in person, you'll feel his heart. I mean, this is his expression with the art, and it embodies the heart that he is. He's a walking, talking heart. And that's a different way of being in the world. That's I have nothing to prove. I have no one to push around. I am in peace. So it's walking in peace.
Yeah, and you don't need to. There's no need for it. You know, it's
Beautiful.
the Navajo song or a ritual, and I think it's walking in beauty. And what it speaks to is how beautiful everything is around me. But not only that, because I am also part of that. So I am walking in beauty. Not because it surrounds me, only because I am also that. And it's a beautiful ritual.
Yeah. I call that divine beauty. That's what, and in fact, I ask every morning to be able to see and experience life in divine beauty, because that's really what we've been separated from.
Right. You know, and we have the memory of it.
Yeah. Once you experience,
you have the longing, you have the desire.
Yes.
And it's just the fact that something holds us back in our physical being. And that's what we're speaking to. If I become more in touch with who I really am,
right,
I can be more open to being open. Because we're afraid of being hurt or wounded or whatever, used or, you know, and yes, that could happen, unfortunately, right?
right.
Not everybody thinks the same. They have physical thoughts. They're more in the physical. And but you have to live your life. Your life. If your life is one that says, I want to feel this earth, I want to feel love, I want to feel all these things, then you gotta do it. You gotta take that. I don't call it a risk. I call it living life.
Mm-hmm. I think what's happened is that people have removed themselves from nature, and they say they love nature, but they hate humans, right? But they don't realize that humans are part of nature. So, the most fundamental thing I think we've done is that we've indoctrinated ourselves into believing that we're separate from nature. And that's a flaw in our current state of thinking, right? Because it was always like that. It was never like that. It's just began happening very recently. And, so much so that even if we asked our grandparents, they would probably tell us stories about how we were connected to nature. So, it's really that recent. And I think we need to snap out of that and go back and realize that everything on this planet is part of this planet, including humans, right? Yeah. So when you're seeing beauty in nature, you have to see the beauty in yourself and the beauty in other people as well. And just not always, jump to the dark side of people. and judge people and never realize their potential. Right. And I think we need to come out of that. Right. And that's the new earth, right, that we're heading into, is where people are going to think like that, act like that, walk the walk and talk the talk, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, we've created a disposable world.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is engineered to last a year or two, break down, and then we got to replace it.
Yeah. Remember back in the day, there used to be shoe shop repair shops.
Exactly.
Right, you take your shoes in, you got them repaired, and now it's like toss them in $20. You go buy a brand new pair, and and the cost of fixing the shoe, if even there is one around, there's like one or two around that I can recall in Western Canada, but they've made it so cheap that disposable is the way to go. And then they tell you that you can't have a plastic bag at a grocery store. You can't use a plastic straw. But meanwhile, right, there's all of this other destruction and stuff that's happening. Right, look at what the right hand is doing, and don't look at the left hand. Right, I think we need to begin to look at both hands and look at our own hands as well, and and see where we're at.
Well, I think the other thing Jose said is he was a materialist, and then he had his near-death experience, and he realized that the values that he put on materialism were shallow and didn't serve him in this new way of being as a force of love. And so that is such a profound lesson for all of us, because we've been programmed in our societies that this is, and our parents did the best they could, our culture did the best it could to try to keep us safe and keep everything going well for us. I really don't think it was all a manipulation to hurt us. I think they really thought this was the way to happiness and good health, but it hasn't worked. It's so out of harmony with who we really are. We are here as pieces of the earth. We are, and we're in a dance. I'll keep going back to dance because you see the fluidness in Jose's images. I mean, if you think about any conflict you have with somebody, if you do not go back and have the conflict with them, the dance is over. So, I mean, so much of this, we get caught in it and the drama of it. But what if you just don't play? What if you become that observer that Jose is talking about and see about putting your energy towards how do I be loved today? How do I see divine beauty in everything? I mean, that's our new earth.
Maybe
it starts with yourself. It starts with looking in the mirror and saying how beautiful I am.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's so profound. Maybe
how relevant I am, how important I am.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us always ask, what am I here for? Do I have a purpose? Well, damn, if you didn't have a purpose, you wouldn't be here. To me, that's just such a simple concept. If I'm here, that's all I need to know. It's why I'm here. The path of my life will become that. I will make that. But, so I don't worry about why I'm here. And, questions like that, they're very profound. I used to ask them. And then maybe I'm here because I'm going to make a good life for my kids. I'm going to have all these houses. They're going to be able to live well. No, that's not why I'm here. There's only one reason why I'm here. Empty that tank. Leave that load.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, I like that. Empty
the
that.
rest doesn't matter. The rest is what my life, where I am, where God put me, or creator, and how I move through that life. It's not relevant to me. What's relevant to me is what I do when I'm here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I used to ask the very same question. Why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? And all of that. And I stopped asking that because I don't care anymore on why I'm here or what my purpose is. The way I see it is that I'm here on vacation to experience this physicality. And while I'm here, I'm going to try my best to love everyone and try my best to not harm anyone or anything. and try to leave this place better than what I found it. And I'm not going to waste any more energy and any more of my time wondering about questions to which I'm never going to have any answers to. I think it's just to be and just be. And once you're being, then everything will just happen because, you know,
Perfect.
you're here, right? And that's all that matters, is that you're here.
And what's important is when I'm going to close my eye and my dad's going to come to get me, I want to be able to say to myself, I left everything I had here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back.
Beautiful.
Oh, because I'm going back filled with beautiful memories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you take. I can't take anything else with me, only those
No.
beautiful memories. Because the bad ones, in my experience, were pulled away from me. So what do you got to do in life? Very simple. Make good memories. Make beautiful memories. That's the only thing that...
Like we're doing here right now.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my heart just went. Oh.
Maybe Schwab the Hutt there is onto something, because he says that you will own nothing and be happy. Right? So old Schwabi is maybe he's got something there. So maybe we'll have to investigate that. But you're so correct, Jose. The only thing that you can take with you is the love that you've received, the love that you've given, the memories that you've created, and the impression that you left behind. And that's the only thing that you take with you. This body avatar will go back to the earth, and a tree and grass and flowers will grow over it, and eventually it will turn into oil. And but your memory, in this time and space, will always be that love that you left behind. Will always be. That can never be taken away. And we should really approach all our lives like that, guys, because we don't need to have a near-death experience to understand the wisdom that less is better. That doesn't mean that you have to live in a tent, right? It doesn't mean that you can still live in a nice home, right? But it's just putting a value into those material things. And I'm writing a book, and it's called Earth Frequency. And in that Earth Frequency, I have these neighbors that live across the street from one another. And I call one of them the Redinklesons, right? Because the Redinklesons it's a combination of two words, right? Like The Simpsons and ridiculous, right? So I call them the Redinklesons, because what the Redinklesons do is that the Redinklesons compete, right, with the neighbors across the street. So like Jose was saying earlier, if that guy went and got a $100,000 Land Rover, the Redinklesons across the street will try to outdo that. So they'll go and buy a vehicle that's $150,000. And if the Redinklesons see that the people across the street put in a spa on their property, they'll go and dig up a hole and put a pool there. And the point to that was that these people are spending so much time and so much energy paying attention to what someone else is doing, and not paying attention to themselves on what they can be doing or what their potential is. Instead of trying to live in the shadows and footsteps of those people, perhaps they should create their own footsteps and shadows and be that full potential, that infinite possibility that we are on this world, and create that potential and make that happen. And it doesn't matter whether the person across the street is driving a BMW and you're driving a Chevette. It doesn't matter. The fact is that BMW goes from point A to point B, and so does your Chevette. It goes from point A to point B. What you put into that is ego, because the ego is telling you, oh, well, people aren't going to look at my car. They're going to think that I'm poor. I'm not going to be able to pick up these girls, or I'm not going to pick up these guys, and all of this is going to happen. And that all really falls into the ego, right? That structure that we've created for ourselves. And that's why we compete constantly with other people without even realizing that we're competing with them, because the Redinklesons have no idea that they're actually competing with the neighbors across the street. And, so I'm trying to lead the story in a direction to where, they'll eventually wake up. But right now they're not awoke, right? Because in the story, their son, Redinkleson Jr., has been, seriously, he's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And the parents, they take Junior to the doctors, and the doctors say, oh, he has schizophrenia, we have to put him on these drugs and so and so and so. And then I go on and I talk and I say, well, instead of looking at it from a point of at face value, taking it at face value from someone who's supposedly in a position of authority that has no idea what's going on, perhaps instead of putting the person on drugs, you should nourish that, and you should, direct them in a direction into where what is going on with this, because it's not a mental illness. It's someone that's, vibrating at a higher level than the current normal human, and they're telepathic or they're a medium, and it's so strong that they're picking up people's thoughts and voices and everywhere around them, but they just don't know how to decode that information. But the ridiculousons are going with the mainstream, right? And the mainstream says, oh, this person's mentally ill, put them on drugs, and we'll put them in a psycho house, and that's it, the problem's been solved and all is well. Right, but it's pretty profound. I'm moving along with it, but a lot of the things that Jose was saying, I was just sitting here just nodding my head. Oh my god, this is so cool. I almost want to just jump in my car and drive down to Summerland and have a coffee with them, because this is like really, we're just resonating on so many thoughts and on so many levels that I've enjoyed this immensely. So thank you, Kathy, for bringing Jose on. And Jose, I'm definitely, we're going to connect and
We'll catch up.
bring you on Watchers Talk, again and again, do in-person talks as well, because, I think we're like soul brothers, because, we're really resonating here. And
we're really close.
That's right.
Very everybody being so far away now. I'm like, wow, way out here,
That's how I feel too sometimes. It's like I'm way up here. These guys are like having conferences in Denver and going to Mount Shasta and like doing all these crazy things. And I'm like, man, I'm stuck up here.
We can sneak you down here. Don't worry.
The barren wilderness.
Down there. It's interesting, but was it Ridiculous?
The Ridiculous, yeah.
I guess that's what we would be to them.
Yeah.
Characters in your book will look at us as that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Mental, there's something wrong with them, whatever. And it's interesting.
It is. I don't want to name off too many names out of the books. I want to still try to keep that under wraps. But, I thought, while you were speaking, thought that I should introduce the Ridinkelson family, right? Because, the experiences that you were having, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, wow, like Jose is like in my head, right? And, and I just
writing your book.
Yeah.
We're going to get really profound here. I'm actually writing your book.
Yeah, that's crazy. It is.
It's kind of interesting, because I believe if I hold a crayon, that crayon is me.
Yeah.
That crayon owns my consciousness. It owns, whilst I hold it, and while I paint a brush, whatever, that is, whatever you're holding becomes you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The pencil, whatever you're writing on, that computer keyboard, that is no longer a computer keyboard. That is you.
It becomes
Wow.
you. Yeah, I like that.
Extension of you.
It becomes an instrument of your consciousness.
It's a pass-through.
Yeah.
It's you going through that, and what comes out is what you want. So you're writing your book, and this is the way I want it, but the minute you touch that keyboard has to become you, so it can write what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes influential to a certain degree, I believe. It has its own energy.
Yeah, it sure does. I sometimes go back and read it when, I get bored. I want to edit it, or I'm going back and just revising my mind, and I read it, and and I remember when I wrote it and the state of mind I was in when I was writing that, because I find that, each time my state of mind is different. Every time I add to it, is my sense of thinking has changed a little bit, and that adds to it. And I can see it personally. I don't know if anyone else will be able to see it, but when I read it, I can clearly tell that I was thinking this at that moment, and I was thinking this and this, and and it's like energetic points, right?
Because part of that book is you.
Yeah, it is me,
It
right?
is, right?
That book is
Part of that
me.
book is you.
Yeah, I'm spilling my guts out in it.
It's how you feel, how you think, and maybe today this happened to me, so that influences how I write. Tomorrow something else happens, and that kind of it tweaks it a little, but that's the beauty of life.
It already has happened like that, Jose. I was writing, and and some things had happened, and it was supposed to be a good thing, and the good thing happened, and then a bad thing happened right after that. I don't want to get into details, but bad thing happened right after that. And then my wife Amy and I, we had a choice in how we were going to respond to that. And in the way we responded to it, we responded it as an observer. And then we said, hey, you know what? We're not going to react to this. We're going to overcome this. And we're not going to give this any energy, because this is what it wants from us. So we are not going to give it to it. So we're going to deprive that of it.
Right.
And then when we deprived that, the next day, the events totally changed and it turned for our favor. But then when I went to go write in my book, I had that new perception in my mind on how to handle and how to be triggered and how to control that trigger. It's just opened up so much in me, is that I just went in. I ended up writing 15, 20 pages, which I normally don't do. I'll write 2-3 pages and that's it, and then I'll move on. But this one time was pretty intense because I'd learned something, right? And I wanted to put in there to reflect that lesson to anyone that's going to read it in the future, that, hey, this happened to me today, and this is how I dealt with it, and this is what happened the next day. So this is what I'm going to do every time from now on. And that's how we've done it. And it's worked. It's like writing the program in front of you, right? You're painting your own story as you're going along, exactly how you want it. And then that's exactly how it manifests itself.
Yeah. And sometimes it manifests itself because maybe we don't know what we want. We got a very nebulous concept.
Yeah.
Our physical brain. Spirit has a very specific. And
it's very goal-oriented.
That guidance is coming from there sometimes and not from here.
Yeah, that's right.
It's spiritual awareness, spiritual, even intervention. But you wrote 20 pages and you normally don't, because the inspiration there. And when you paint, the same thing happens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't paint when you want, you paint when it tells you to paint.
When you're inspired to do so. Exactly.
Right? And what tells you to paint? Is it creator? Is it your spirit? Something. Yeah. And then that is where you draw that inspiration from.
The universe will give you what you need, not what you want. Right? Everybody wants $1 million, but the universe, will give you what you need. If it feels that you need $100, then it will give you $100, right? But if not, then not. But that's like that with everything else in life as well, right? Because I keep hearing in this new age movement, breathe and meditate and creative visualization, and whatever you visualize it, what you can manifest that. And I agree to it to a certain extent, right? But I feel that most of it is really naive and ununderstood. It's the ego that is saying that do your creative visualization and visualize a briefcase full of $100 bills, and then that's what you'll find in a parking lot somewhere as you're walking, right? It's absolutely naive, and it's not like that, right? It's more about love and energy.
We are so resonating because you're one of the few people that I've heard express exactly how I feel. We have a lot of capacity to do things, but we're charged with doing it. You want that thing with that briefcase with money? You know what? There's ways that we can do that. Imagining it in my head is not going to make it happen.
Exactly.
It might help. It might give me a purpose. It might direct. But we have to do something to make that happen.
Yeah. You just
doesn't get on the canvas by itself. We got to put it on there. And then there's going to be a lot of times where you go, oh man, I messed this up, and you're going to start over. And I think that's part of our journey here.
Mm-hmm.
That work that we have to put in it is part of the beauty of the journey.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Exactly.
I always told my kids, you have to put your struggle in order to achieve something. You have to put your struggle in. They don't want to do the dishes, right? But you have to struggle it through. And if you want something, a reward or something at the end of the day. But that goes with everything else in life as well. You have to put your struggle in. You just can't sit on your ass and hope that if you sit there long enough, the world will come to you, right? You'll be sitting there a very, very long time. You'll wither away into dust and turn into oil. Before that happens, you have to go out into the world and make things happen. You have to
We're charged with taking action.
yeah, you have to be a
Creator says,
shooter.
here's 20 opportunities. You pick one, and then you have to do something.
That's right. Run with it. It's like Peter was saying yesterday with the doorways in the hallways that he was in. Each hallway that he went into, each choice that he made, and then it led down a hallway, and down those hallways there were more doors and more options and more choices, and you can go down that, and then same thing, and it's beautiful what I've learned so far. So Jose, my brother, I'm so looking forward to seeing you in person and carrying our conversations forth. I've so immensely enjoyed your dialogue today, your experience, your wisdom. And we're at a 2-hour marker, and this has been the longest stream that we've done so far. Peter Panagore had the record yesterday, but we broke it. And I'm enjoying you so much that it's just I could keep going like this for another few hours. I really could, but I don't think that we really can.
We'll do it over a coffee at Tim Hortons.
I like that. Oh, good old Timmy's.
Or whatever we find out here.
Yeah, drink 1 cup and piss 10 times.
On a good day.
On a good day, I tell you, they got like, what do they call it, rawhide in their coffee. Because, man, I drink a small cup like that and I'm in the bathroom like 20 times.
I think it's powerful. Oh, my dear friend, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Yes, thank you.
By
Thank you,
Zoom,
Jose.
but I can't wait till we actually physically get together, and it
Very
will be
quickly.
soon.
Yeah, I have family all through the Okanagan, and I'm going to be down there very quick. And when I'm coming down, maybe after the stream, we can hop in a private chat, exchange our telephone numbers, and then we can connect. Let's bring Kathy back on so we can do a little bit of closing, and throw a shout out to IONS, because you're going to be speaking at the IONS conference August 31st through September the 4th. Kathy, tell us about that.
Well, I don't have. Do you want me to put it up on the screen?
We brought it up on screen so many times.
Okay.
You just give us a quick verbal download on it, and I'll share their info on screen here.
Okay, August 31st to September 4th in Salt Lake City is our annual IONS conference. It's the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And every day there is 4 streams of conversations, hour after hour, of amazing stories like Jose's, talking about really deep subjects. And this year, the past 2 years, we've had to be virtual. And Jose, I remember you did something about the divine masculine, I think, last year.
Yes.
And I got to meet Jose in person in Philadelphia 3 years ago, I guess. So what we want everyone to do is, if you can't come to Salt Lake City, which of course we're in a virtual environment right now, you also can, if you cannot come in person, you can sign up and do the virtual streaming. And once it's streamed, you don't have to sit by your computer or your TV for the whole time. All of the videos and the recordings will be available for 180 days afterwards.
6 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, every time you have dinner, you can sit around and watch one. But when you hear what each one of these amazing experiencers have done, come back from a lot of pain and a transcendent experience, and made a big footprint in the world. And when you hear what Jose's doing with his art, where it's available as a healing tool in hospitals and in public art spaces, you'll see everyone I met has thought big. They're not letting this lifetime pass them by. And so that is such a good example for all of us.
Mhm.
Right, Jose?
Yeah, you said that so beautifully. Yes, that is perfectly correct. That's what life is.
Yes. So I'm hoping that as many of you as possible will come join us in Salt Lake City. But if you cannot, come online. And I know if you have felt Jose's heart in this, then you will feel everyone's heart that's presenting. Even the researchers, which they're more left-brained. You would think that they wouldn't, but everyone I've met in this environment is thinking about life in a very expanded way. And that's our future. That's the way the earth wants to evolve. So I'm so excited to be a part of this. I'm so excited to see all these people again and to learn and have language to the feeling in my heart. I don't think there's that many other ways you can read and your brain gets all this stuff, but when you're around this and you feel it, and people like Peter Panagore yesterday, his grasp of explaining mysticism, and when you hear Jose talk about his experience with color, it's visceral,
Mhm.
and it's like an awakening for all of us.
It
So
sure is.
I'm just inviting everyone I can. I just am so excited.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, Kathy. And a lot of us up here in Canada are kind of stuck here in under Trudeau's reign. But I would say hop on in on the virtual, because it's available for 6 months after, and I really like that idea. When you're having dinner or you're just kicking back, watch a video and talk about it with your family or your friends. Invite some friends over, sit around, watch a couple episodes, and have that discussion, and see what you have in common, what more you have in common, and what have you learned from that. So it's a wonderful opportunity to create dialogue and conversation around dinner tables and coffee tables and things like that. And not only there, but once you've seen it, you can go out to your work and talk about it with friends and say, hey, I watched this video the other day and blah blah blah. But you'd never know, maybe they have had a near-death experience that they've never talked about, and they see that you're talking about it. Maybe they'll feel that they can speak to you about it, and what a great opportunity that would be. So again, the potentials are infinite. So with that being said, thank you very much to Jose, and thank you, Kathy, for co-hosting and co-creating, and thank you very much to our friend Eric Hecker at deciphering.tv. We are streaming there as well, so check out Watchers Talk on deciphering.tv. We're going to be talking a lot of uncensored stuff over there coming very shortly. So guys, thank you for being here today, and thank you for all your comments and your thoughts. I really appreciate that. I always keep an eye on the chat room because it's one of my favorite places, actually, because I always say half the show is in the chat room and the other half is happening on screen, because a lot of wisdom gets shared in the chat room. So I appreciate you guys. My name is Omar, coming at you guys from West Coast, British Columbia, Canada, with my friend Jose and my friend Kathy Mason from Mason Works. Please subscribe to Kathy's channel. And if you're on Kathy's channel, please subscribe to my channel on Watchers Talk, because we are multi-streaming this on a number of different platforms. Thank you guys. I love you guys very much. Don't forget to say I love you to yourself. It is the most beneficial thing that there ever is. When you wake up in the morning, as you're going into the bathroom, you're seeing yourself in the mirror. When you turn the light on, look at yourself and say, hey, sexy, I love you. Appreciate yourself, give yourself gratitude, because if you can't love yourself and you can't give yourself gratitude, then you can't love everyone else and give gratitude to the world. So it begins with the self, and it begins internally. So why not do that first thing in the morning and begin your day with a new perception and new ideas? And as we know, Water holds memory, water holds intention. And as Dr. Emoto has shown us, that it works. And if the 70% of this earth is water, 70% of our body is water, the air we breathe is mist, is water, all of that. When we begin to say, I love you, that begins to crystallize and turn into its natural shapes and forms and vibrate at the highest of the highest frequencies that there are. And that will be beneficial, not only health-wise for you, but physically, mentally, and spiritually. And not only for yourself, but for your friends, families, everyone that's on this timeline, other timelines, and all of the layers and all of the dimensions that there are, because love has no bounds. Love is the only vibration, and everything else, my friends, is just an illusion. I love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, before I do that, I really love
yeah,
doing that.
Here.
I really loved doing that yesterday, so let's hit it.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Give up